So good morning, ma'am. So this video is a continuous topic about the module 2, which is the DBMS. So in this video, I will discuss about the DBMS security, object-oriented DBMS, this DBMS language, special model and DBMS model, and the database scheme and database instance. So let's start. So when we see DBMS or database management system, it is a piece of technology that interact with users, applications, and database to record and analyze data while also manipulating the database to offer a way to store, access, retrieve data. So DBMS refers to the software that monitors and maintain accurate quality data in a data structure, especially a DBMS health organization optimize, store, retrieve, and manage data in a database. Ang database serve as an interface between the database and end user to ensure the data is well organized and easily accessible. So, gamit po siya system command to manipulate and automate important database processes like preparing data for storage. So, the main type of benefits using DBMS is useful siya for business. So, that's all for the DBMS. Next is the database security. The database security concern the use of a broad range of information security control to protect the database potentially including the data, the database application or stored function, the database system, the database server. So, ang database security set is a measure to use to protect and secure database management or database software from illegitimate use and malicious cyber threats and attack. So, ang database security is mo protect sad siya against threats such as accidentally of intentionally loose distractions or misuse. So the database security support all the security features that are available with non-distributed database environment for distributed database system, including a password authentication for the users and roles because sometimes manggod ang external authentication for use and roles kay usually gamit sa Kerberos version 5 for correcting users link. So when using if we connected user or current user database link, you can use an internal authentication source such as Kerberos to obtain an end-to-end security. So an end-to-end authentication, credentials are passed from server to server and can be authenticated by database server belonging to the same domain. For example, if me is authenticated externally in a local database and want to use connected user link to connect herself to a remote database. So the local server pass the security tickets to the remote of a database. Next is the OODBMS. When you say OODBMS, is the Object-Oriented Database Management System. So, When we say or object-oriented database management system, it is a database system that can work with complex data objects that mirror the use of object-oriented program language. Everything is an object, and many objects are quite complex, having different properties and methods. So normally ang OODBMS built with two independent blocks, an interpreter running on the top of the storage manager. The task of the storage manager is to store object on the secondary storage, move object between the main memory and the second storage, and take care of the creating or deleting object. So kung mag-design tag OODBMS, it is important tigid na ma-consider how much semantic there should be placed in the storage manager, or how should the storage manager know about the data model. That's all for OODBMS. So next is the data language. Database language. So database language, also known as query language or data query language. Ang database language is classifying of programming language that develop used to define and access database, which are collections of organized data that user can access electronically. So this language allow users to complete tasks such as controlling access to data, defining and updating data, and searching for information within the database management system or the DBMS. So, duha ka part ang database language. First is the DDL, which means Data Definition Language. So, in the DDL, creates the framework of a database by specifying the database schema, which is structure that represent the organization of data. So, common use include the creation and alteration tables, file index, and column within the database. So, kani siya nga language kay allowed users to rename or drop the existing database or its component. So, next part is the DML, the Data Manipulation Language. So, in DML, provide operations that handle user requests or offering a way to access and manipulate data that users store within the database. So, ang common function niya is include inserting, updating, and retrieving data from the database. So, na siya duha ka part, which is the procedural and non-procedural. So, when we say procedural, we need to follow step by step by inserting and updating the data. And non-procedural, mo na siyang randomly not following the step. So next is the spatial model and database model. So when we say spatial model, allow the modeling or representations respectively special phenomena of the real world like fact and processes. This happen firstly on a conceptual level, which mean that in general, the actual implementation of this model is not considered spatial model, are often graphic-oriented models like map or plans and can be represented digitally or analogously. So, ang spatial model is also known as a raster model. So, for example, the vector model is special case of the object model. The raster model is a special case of the terrestrial spatial model. So, more na siya ang spatial model. Next is the database model. Database model are from the category of informatic models and are therefore exact model or implementation model respectively. So the database model can be used quite often and are not restricted to special type of problem. A sample of a database model are rational database model and the object rational database model. So the next is the database scheme and the database instance. So the database schema, it is a structure described in a formal language supported by the database management system. So the term schema refers to the organization of data as a blueprint of how database is constructed. So ang database scheme day refers siya sa organization of data and how the database is constructed. So there are three main kinds of database scheme. First is the logical, second is the physical, the view schema. When we say logical, describe the design as a logical level. Really, mo lang siya i-describe ang design as a logical level. Then, a physical schema, describe the database design at physical level. So, mag-base sa gyapon siya sa physical level. Ang view schema define the design of the database at the view level. So, imo i-describe ang iyang view if it is ang maka-judge na kung saan. Next is the database instant. Database instant, also known as server, it is a set of memory structure and background processes that access a set of database file. The memory structure that are used to store most required data from a database. This help na ma-improve ang database performance by decreasing the amount of input and output performed against the data file. So the difference between schema and instant. So ako siya gi-categorize into two. So kung sa schema, ang sa side sa schema, it is an overall description of the database. Ang schema is the same for whole database. Does not change frequently. Define the basic structure of the database, how the database will be stored in a database. So, ang sa instant naman is, it is the collection of information stored in a database at a particular moment. Data in instant can be changed using additional or deletion updation. Change frequently. It is the set of information stored at a particular time. So, muna siya ang kalahian sa between sa schema and instant.